Okay. Hello, everyone. It's Stacey Santiago here, and I have something very special for you today. Michelle is here to talk with us about a really amazing transformational journey she's had as she's done some work to finally create a career path that she actually loves and that she wants to get up and engage with in the morning. It's been a long journey for Michelle, and she's been through a lot. And I know that you can resonate with a lot of the things that she's going to share today. So listen up. This is going to be a really valuable story for you. And so I want to introduce Michelle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle. I just graduated Stacey's career process not too long ago. So it's been a really dramatic and exciting change for me. So I'm really excited to be here and get to share a little bit with everybody.
Yay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so first question I have for you is, well, before you started with coaching, what was going on in your career and your life? Describe for us that kind of challenge and the pain that was going on.
Absolutely. Before I started coaching, I was giving 1,010% at work, and unfortunately didn't have a lot else to give anywhere else. I was at work all the time. I was trying so hard to be what everybody else needed that somehow or other I kind of forgot that it was my life and I was supposed to do something I enjoyed every day. Uh, the details are, I mean, nobody really needs specifics, but in general, I would dread waking up because I was in pain physically and emotionally. And I had a lot going on, trying to give so much at work that it was a mess. I'd go to work for an 8-hour day and I'd be there for 12, 14. And when I got home, I didn't really have anything other than just straight downtime because I couldn't even contemplate reading something or going out and seeing a family friend or spending any time doing anything else. And one of the questions that Stacey asked me really right at the beginning is, what do you actually want to be doing? And that was stunningly difficult to answer because I'd been giving so much of myself at work for so long that I hadn't really taken that step back to look and see what I didn't have in my life and what I wanted in my life. One of the questions that Stacey asked was, what was it costing me? It was absolutely costing me sleep, energy, time with my family, my health. I did a lot of work, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed certain aspects of my work and still do. The company I worked for has a lot of really great benefits, has a lot of really great people there, and I enjoyed those relationships immensely. But what I found was that that's all I was doing, is giving so much at work that it was costing me really a sense of peace in my own life, and I was tripping over that a lot. I was having emotional reactions to things. Oh goodness, I mean, the phone would ring at 2 o'clock in the morning for an emergency, something that was very dramatic and needed to be handled. And I would have an over the top emotional reaction to it. I had no boundaries at all, anywhere. And it was physically and emotionally very painful. What was even more painful was that I knew there were pieces of the work that I absolutely loved that I wasn't able to give the right amount and the right energy towards because I was so locked up in where I was at the moment.
Mm-hmm. What got you to the point where you knew you just couldn't sustain any longer? It was like break point and you knew I have to get help.
There were a couple, and I think the big thing for me, and I'm apparently not a super fast learner when it comes to personal decisions, was that there were several outsiders' perspectives that came into play all at the same time. I saw Stacey's webinar and I watched that. And when we spoke on the phone, you asked me, why are you doing what you're doing? And how do you want to be living your life? And that was a strange moment for me where I was like, oh, it's that obvious that maybe I'm not 100% happy. I also had an experience with one of my doctors who said, you may need to look into something else. You're physically hurting yourself. And that was huge. That was gigantic. Really depressing too at the same time, because it's what I'd been doing for so long. And I think the other piece of the puzzle, and it's a funny story now, but at the time it was over the top, my kitchen sink broke. It sounds like a little thing, but it was the worst experience, straw that broke the camel's back kind of day. And suddenly I realized that I really needed to figure out what was going on with me, health, emotionally, and work, because it all kind of combined together for me and into this perfect storm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got to the point where you just couldn't ignore this anymore on so many different levels. It was survival for so long. It was such a physical impact, and you had emotional, relational, and probably spiritual too. And just all of these things that were so complex and just heavy, to the point where it's like, you know what? Something has to change, and just going to therapy a couple times or just applying online to a few things isn't going to do it.
Yep. Yep. It felt like something that I needed to step back and really take a look at what I was doing and what I wanted to be doing. Because there are aspects of my career and aspects of my life and aspects of everything that I've been doing for the last 15 years that I really do love. But standing alone in front of a whiteboard trying to figure out what they were, oh my gosh, that was scary. And having the option to reach out and say to somebody, to Stacy, to say, can you help me with this? And having the response be overwhelmingly positive was very cool. Having an outside perspective on all of those things really made it possible for me to be able to see a path for myself. I didn't know where it was leading. I just knew it was up out of the hole where I was. I actually, one of the things I found amusing was that during the process, there was at least one other person who was getting coaching with Stacy at the same time and had decided to stay where she was because she figured out that she loved it and she dealt with some of the pieces that she didn't like. That was inspiring to be able to see. Just redefining things made such a big difference for so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a huge point. And you don't quite know what to expect along the way. Everyone wants to know, okay, what's the job? How do I just get the job? But there's so much you need to shape and discover along the way. So what did you discover and take action on along this career journey?
I think the biggest thing I discovered is that wanting things to be perfect was actually holding me back from making small changes that made a big difference. I wanted to, lose 10 pounds and go to the gym every day. And that was just not going to happen because I've tried that before and it didn't work. But micro changes, making a small change of going outside and taking a walk. It didn't matter how long, it didn't matter where. And if it started raining, I just went home. But it was an action that I took, and I started to feel better when I was taking small little actions to see positive for myself. The mindset work of this journey has been repeated a lot. It's a muscle that you have to build. So for those watching, if you're not 100% comfortable with that mindset muscle yet, don't freak out. It's okay. You will adjust. Really redefining things for myself in terms of looking at my life and saying, what are the must-haves for me? You specifically define it during the coaching journey of your must-have criteria for a new position, but the work itself you can apply to anything. So must-haves for my life. I wanted to spend more time with my family. It was a non-negotiable. I needed that in order to center myself. I think the big thing for me was realizing that a lot of what I was doing was serving other people, which is what I want to do, but it wasn't serving me. And putting those two things together, if I'm taking actions that help myself and help me to live in a more positive space, I can help others better and swifter and easier and help to make other people's lives better, but also make my own life better at the same time. So that has been a major takeaway for me, major change. Just in thinking about it, it's reframing it, it's putting it into different words and just putting positive energy out into the world as opposed to dwelling on all the negatives. And, you know, intellectually, you know, that's a thing that works, but making that change with help was much easier than trying to make that change on my own. I'd been struggling for a while trying to redefine the wheel when there's a perfectly acceptable wheel over here with Stacy that works really, really well, and trust the system, it works. So I think that for me, having that outside perspective and making sure that somebody calls me on it if I'm starting to go down the wrong path again was very, very helpful in coaching for
me. Good. What would you say are your greatest outcomes at this point? I heard you say a lot with mindset and shifting the way that you're seeing your world, and you're taking approaches, and it's so much more positive now, and you've made micro changes, and I'm sure everyone's wanting to know too about what you ended up doing with your job situation. So what would you say are maybe your top 3 outcomes?
Top 3 outcomes. I'm happier. I'm going to start with that one because that's the most important to me. I'm healthier. I have a system set up for myself so that I can be positive about my own health, my own confidence, my own self-worth. And I think the other thing for me is, it's part of my health actually, is I have a new job with boundaries that are much more in keeping with what is needed for my health and my sanity. The new job it feeds on a lot of the things that I loved about my previous work. It eliminates some of the ones that were not fulfilling in any way, shape, or form. And it opens up new doors for me to learn more and advance myself. In terms of the new job, there's kind of a caveat there. Yeah, it's one of the top 3 takeaways, but the other caveat to that is that I know that it's not the only job I could get, and it's not maybe the only job I want for the rest of my life, but for the moment, it will serve me in my current needs, and it will also allow me to continue to work at putting those 3 things together has been really cool. I mean, I had people, family and friends, come to me and say, "You look happy." And it's been a while since that's been the lead in. So that's been the biggest takeaway.
Awesome. I love that. And that's just so amazing to show the balance of what this transformation does. Because we're not talking about, oh, I showed Michelle how to go online and job search, and we wrote a great resume, and then boom, life's amazing. She did a lot of deep work. And she did so much in the mindset space and so much from the inside out to change not just her immediate career future, but the rest of her life. And she's empowered now with tangible tools, a specific strategy. She has a new job, which she hasn't had in well over 10 years. And that's tangibly different too. So we did a lot of work on these different levels, which is completely holistic, completely powerful. And I'll ask Michelle is this is tough for people to understand, because a lot of people think about career, well, it's just a job, I have to work, I just need a paycheck. Or, well, I'd love to have a career that I really want, but it's kind of like a luxury and I'll just wait and maybe something will happen. What is your advice? Why is it worth doing this work now?
I would say it's worth doing this work because of just the sheer value of feeling better about yourself and knowing that you can do what you want to do. It may not be today, and it may not be tomorrow that you have your, I don't know, very own shop somewhere selling things to millionaires. That may not be tomorrow, but you can take a step a little bit further along the path. And and see yourself in a different space and in a different light. I think the big thing for me is I couldn't have done it on my own to envision myself outside of where I was. It was very difficult for me to do it with help. And I think that the clarity and setting the boundaries for myself and sticking to my boundaries, that's all work that came through this process. I think that the process itself can also be applied to things other than finding a new job. Although I know that's what it's commonly most used for. I have the opportunity to set up some time where I can volunteer now, which I'm incredibly excited about. It was one of the things that I wanted to be able to do, and it was part of my must-have criteria to be able to say, I have a little bit more time where I can help people. I can go outside my own experience and see what's out there to assist. And I am currently applying some of the tactics from coaching to trying to discern exactly how I want to help out and how I want to be of value to the organization I'm going to be helping. So I have some must-have criteria questions that I've sent in an email to see how we can both fit our needs. And that's a volunteer opportunity. You can do it with anything. You can do it with your personal life. You can do it with your work. You can do it with volunteer opportunities or whatever else you're struggling with. I think the big thing about it for me, and the most important reason to do it, is it makes you think about yourself in a different way. And it makes you take that half step back and encourage yourself with support, thankfully, to challenge yourself to do something different, or even do the same thing, but with a different mindset. And what that one change can do for you is absolutely huge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. You've got such a wonderful story, and I want people to know too is that there's two things. One is that it's not a question of does it work. The only question is, will you show up? And Michelle showed up. She was there on all the calls. She did all the activities. She kept up with it. She didn't see it as, oh, well, this is kind of a side project and maybe I'll get to it. She jumped into it and she's reaping the benefits from it. And you get what you sow. And so if you want your outcome, it's completely possible. This is the system to get there. It's only your choice of, do you want it and will you do it? That's the only question. That's the cool thing.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty cool when you look at it that way. And the other part that's cool is that if you're a little behind, or if something doesn't go the way you want it to go, or if there's a certain activity that just does not gel with your brain, that's okay. Stacy has another option for you. And there are ones that I did and I look back on now and I'm like, oh, I could have done better on that. And then I start to think to myself, but you did what you needed to do. If you need to revisit it later, I still have those tools. I have access to that information. If I'm having a bad week and I need to get into a more positive mindset, I can go to that part of the website and watch that video again. I can engage with those pieces and put it together for myself in a more positive way. And I think that that's really different. Having that support sitting there waiting for me means I can step a little bit further out on the branch on my own and know that it may not be a full safety net, but there's someone nearby who's going to at least try to grab my wrist as I go off the edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're by no means alone, either when you're actively doing the work or even now afterwards. You're still plugged in, you still have access, and it's not a one-trick pony. It's something you use for the rest of your life. And you see things differently, you feel differently, you create differently, you manifest things differently in your life. And so that's why I like to say it's about transformation, not information. If you want info, go read a book. There are blogs online. If you want fundamental transformation, this is your place.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, that's it, guys. I will conclude today. That is Michelle's story. And I thank her so much for coming on and wanting to share that with you. And I hope that it helps you, if anything, to give you hope, to know that there is possibility, there is a way. You don't have to stay stuck. You can create more than you ever thought was possible. So if you want to talk to me about that, then there is a way to do that too. And I'll put that in the post with this video so you can connect with me that way. You can always reach me and ask questions. So we shall bid you farewell, and thanks for watching. Bye.